Hi everyone, I'm Candace, Eclectic Coaching with Candace. I do private coaching, intuitive readings, and custom guided imagery. So if you're interested in any of those things, be sure to check out my site and fill out the Getting to Know You form. And in this video, I want to talk about 5 coaching don'ts. And of course, this is just my opinion, but if you are new to coaching, or if it's something that you think you might be interested in, or if you are a coach, consider these 5 coaching don'ts. I was going to name it 5 things coaches should avoid, and I still might, although I don't think that shoulding on people is a good idea. But these are 5 things that I think if you don't do them, it will help you significantly in your practice. And this is, the first one is one of my big things, whether it's with coaching or if you go to see a therapist, and that is, don't make it about you. Don't make the session about you. See, sometimes when we are in a profession where we listen a lot to people, we think, oh, well, I'll just share an example from my own life, to illustrate the point that I am trying to make. But what can happen is that you get lost on this whole thing that you are talking about to describe something that you know about, and that's not what the session is for. The session is for your paying client to feel heard and seen and understood and listened to and valued, not for you to go on about yourself. So as a general rule, don't talk about yourself. I find it really interesting. There's this one therapist I was working with for a couple of times, and it didn't last very long because of this. I would go on and talk about what's going on in my life and in my career, and he would go into this long diatribe about his career when he was working in this field and all these different things. And I know that his intentions were in the right spot. He was just trying to relate to me. But then he would go on, and it's easy to lose track of time. And, and then 10-15 minutes would go by. He was just going on about his life experience and these stories. And of course, I'm smiling and nodding, because I struggle with codependency. So I'm like, yeah, let's make you feel comfortable right now. Even though I'm like, can we please talk about me? I'm paying you $100 an hour here. Can we talk about me? And then the next thing you know, it's like, oh, time's up. And I was never compensated for the time he spent talking about himself. And a coaching relationship is different than friends having a conversation over coffee. It's not the client talks and then you talk, and then they talk and then you talk. That's not the nature of the relationship. And it's just my personal opinion that it's extremely, extremely unprofessional to talk about yourself, because in so few situations does the person have the floor. Does the person, especially with women, it's customary on, Venus, according to Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, that one woman will talk and then she patiently waits and listens attentively, and then it's her turn, and that's kind of volley. Yeah, that's not what this is. Somebody's paying you to hear them, to see them, to let them be the star of the show. And so I think that is extremely important, to not do that to your clients, to create that safe space for them to talk. And sometimes you are just the sounding board so that they can hear themselves and come to their own aha conclusions. So my next point, however, is feeling like if you're going to be a coach or if you're going to be a therapist, you somehow need to make yourself perfect or perfect every area of your life in order to do the work that you do. And I've had people in my life, family and friends, will be in an argument and they're like, "You do this for a living? You're a terrible communicator," or "I can't believe you think that you're going to do this." And I was talking to somebody, I think it was on Tinder or something. I said I was a coach, and he made it a point to let me know that some of the most jacked up people he's ever met are coaches. And I guess my only response to that was, I can't wait to be perfect to be of service. Because the truth is, we're all learning and we're all growing, and therapists need to go see therapists, and coaches need to go see coaches and therapists. I mean, we all are here on this journey, and we're all living and learning and offering tools and skills and perspectives that can be useful to somebody. And just because you're not perfect, you are perfect in your imperfections, but because you don't have every single area of your life figured out, that you don't have something to give. Because there are a lot of people out there who would benefit from working with you and just being heard and seen by you and connecting with you. So you're never going to have all of your ducks in a row. And there's this great line in the Course in Miracles which says, "Be less concerned with your own readiness and be more concerned with mine." And we're all students and teachers in the game of life. And we're, like Marianne Williamson says, only a half a step ahead of the person behind us in any area. So sometimes, we've got it going on in our career and we've got a lot of great information or tools or perspectives to share. And sometimes we can just be the space for somebody to work that stuff out. And sometimes we're not doing so hot in the relationship department, or sometimes our relationships are rich and full and intimate and vibrant and healthy, but our money situation sucks. And sometimes, let's get real, it feels like lots of different areas of our life are in complete disarray, but you don't really know the full scope of everything. I thought it was interesting. I was reading the prologue of the book As a Man Thinketh, and it was talking about how he had went off into the wilderness to write this book, and he didn't really like that book. And he wrote a bunch of other ones, but he wasn't really satisfied with that, and he didn't feel that great about it. And that book in particular has been quoted by so many speakers and thinkers and authors. And the thing is, we don't know. It's not for us to judge our work. It's for us to be receptive to the divine guidance that we receive and offer it to other people to the best of our ability. So don't wait to become perfect before you offer your gifts and your talents and your abilities. And I feel like I'm talking to myself, because that's something I've really struggled with, is like, well, I don't have this figured out and I don't have that figured out. But I still have to know that I have something of value to offer other people, and so do you. And then the next thing is, don't space out. One way to really become grounded before a session is to have a ritual that you do. In school, they taught us this technique where you pause before every single client and every single session, and you become fully present, and you say maybe a little prayer or do some sort of ritual that kind of helps you get into that headspace where you can be fully available and fully present. Because that's where people really do a lot of their healing, is just in the quality of your ability to listen and be present and not judge and just bear witness to their greatness. And so in order to really do that, you can't be in your head, and thinking about your next client or what you're going to do for lunch or any of those things. So having a ritual that helps you get fully present in the moment is really, really helpful, because it's there that you can sense certain things. It's in the dropping of the mental chatter that you have going on in your own mind that you can fully see that person, and they can see their own potential reflected in your eyes, because you're present, and because illusions and these false concepts of ourself and of others falls away, and what you're left with is the true essence of you as the coach and them as the client. And it's a really beautiful experience. And one of the things that I really like about practicing full presence with clients is that they become, like, regardless of who they are or what their situation is or what emotion they are expressing, they become beautiful. It's almost like you can see their essence, their divine essence shine through as you really listen and move into that receptive space. And then the next thing is giving advice. You know, people think that if you're a coach, you're like, this is what you should do. This is where you should go. This is should. Don't should on people. And it doesn't help for you to tell the client what they should do. What is much, much more effective is to get them engaged and to ask insightful questions from that present space and get them to tell you how they feel, what's going on for them. Lead them to their own aha moment and ask them what they are committed to doing or what they want to do. Because if it comes from within them, they're more motivated to actually do it. And if you're telling them you should do this or you should do that, sometimes what happens is they don't do it and then they avoid you because they feel bad or they're like in trouble in some way. It's really interesting. But if you can get them to sell you on what it is that they feel inspired to do, you're also helping them strengthen their own sense of inner guidance that's always with them, which is really, really important because they need that. They need to be able to get in touch with their own truth and feel solid and grounded and supported in that. And a lot of what you do as a coach is just support somebody in finding their own voice, getting to their own point of clarity, and cheering them on. Because you don't really know what they should do. Sometimes we think that we do, and when we start getting into that space, we got to realize maybe we're not being present here, because it's about leading them to their own discovery. And really asking these questions is an art. And they already know what they should do on the deepest level. You know, their guides, their intuition, their connection with the divine that's omnipresent is always telling them, you know, but sometimes we get that guidance, we're like, no, that's not right. And we deny it, or we deflect it, or we distract ourselves from it, because sometimes it's a bit shocking. What you're there to do is to support them in understanding their own truth. And then the next thing is, don't let loops go unnoticed. And what do I mean by loops? A client will come to you and they will have a challenge. And sometimes they will, and we all do this with different things. We all have our loops, you know, the circular thinking, you know, of a story that we tell over and over and over again. And that's really what I'm talking about, is looping stories or looping patterns. Because part of what you're doing as a coach is helping them identify their loops so that they can make different choices. And they're not just unconsciously going around and around in the same circular thinking. So don't let loops go unnoticed. If you see them tell this or hear them tell the same story over and over again, or you see a pattern re-emerge, it's not to continually indulge them in whatever unproductive storyline they have. It's to compassionately help them take a step back and see it for what it is. So perhaps you could say something like, you've told me the story, and of course you know the story because of course you've been very present through all of your sessions with them. You've told me the story quite a few times, and what is it that you would like me to understand from this story? And that can kind of sometimes get them to pause and see, what is it that I'm fixated on in this story? But allowing these patterns to go unresolved over and over again will lead to a stagnation in growth, because that's why they're coming to you, because apparently they have some sort of thought pattern that they're not aware of, and you can gently help them see what that is. Now, in school, they gave us a very good piece of instruction, and that is, if you bring something up to a client and they're not willing to go there, like, I see that you have a lot of anger around your ex. Can you tell me a little bit about that? What is that keeps reemerging? And they deflect, or they bounce off the subject, or they're just not really willing to go there. And then you try to reapproach again. Okay, yeah, you've told me that you don't appreciate the way he spoke to you, and that was 5 years ago. What is it about that that's continuing to show up in your experience? And they don't want to go there, you can back off, because when the client is ready, they're ready. It's your job to create the space for growth and facilitate it, but you're not doing their growth for them. And sometimes people just aren't willing or ready to look at something, and that's okay. One thing that you can do when that happens is compliment them. Back up and look for something genuine and real and sincere to praise them about. And I found that when I do this with people who are looping or deflecting, a lot of times they're just doing that because there's some part of them that's not at peace or is unrested and uncomfortable. So if you can compliment them and help them realign with their essence, their greatness, and who they truly are by giving a sincere compliment, and then you reapproach, it's much easier to get them to step back and be like, oh yeah, I do see where that pattern. But if you still can't get them on topic, it's not your job to force it if they're that uncomfortable, because people are going to grow at their own pace, and you are not assigning their homework, you are not assigning the task that they do. You are asking them, what is it that you're committed to doing? What actions are you committed to taking? And then keeping clear track of that so that you can help them stay the course. Anyway, I kind of went around and about there, but those are about 5 things that you can do, or not do, as a coach, and that will help you and help your clients. Thanks.